واعتصموا بحبل وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. وأولئك هم المفلحون. صدق الله العظيم.
Sholawat Badar.
Rasulillah, salatullah على ياسين حبيب الله صلاة الله سلام الله على طه رسول الله صلاة الله سلام الله على ياسين حبيب الله توسلنا ببسم الله وبالهادي رسول الله وكل مجاهد لله بآل البدر يا الله صلاة الله سلام الله على طه رسول الله صلاة الله سلام الله على ياسين حبيب الله إليه سلم الأمة من الآفات والنقمة ومن هم ومن غمة بآل البدر يا الله صلاة الله سلام الله على طه رسول الله صلاة الله سلام الله على ياسين حبيب الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, The head of organizing committee, Dr. Muhammad Hambal, is going to give a report to the participants.
Still mode, Pak Hambal.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Very good morning, everybody. Bapak Rektor and every distinguished guest. Welcome to the second International Conference on Veterinary, Animal and Environmental Sciences 2020. This conference, which I shall presently ask our Rector, Professor Samsul Rijal, to open, is the second conference after we have the first one in 2019. This conference is held by the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Syah Kuala. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend a warm and sincere greetings to you all and to thank you for your interest. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Rektor, Dean, and distinguished guests, this international conference has in my list 150 registered participants from Indonesia, the United States of America, Australia, Czech Republic, Turkey, and Malaysia. We have also here the deans from all vet school in Indonesia and all the dean from Universitas of Syah Kuala. And we have also our partners and also many people who have a long collaboration with Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Syah Kuala. This international conference is the contribution of us all, the academician, researcher, experts, government officers, and civil society organizations who conducted many years of research in the field of veterinary medicine, animal husbandry, zoonosis, One Health, human medicine, forestry, environment, wildlife conservation, food technology, and food security, and many other expertise to the large basis which we wish to give to international society. Bapak Rektor, ladies and gentlemen, in this conference, we will have 6 invited speakers which will share their experience in 2 plenary sessions. They are Professor Dr. Hewan Srihadi Agung Priyono from IPB University, Professor Dr. Graham Martin MSc from University of Western Australia, Dr. Nur Khalidah Abdul Hamid from University Science Malaysia, Professor David Modri from University of Veterinary and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Brno, Czech Republic, Professor Musa Yafuz from Isparta Applied Science, Turkey, and Professor Dr. Zong Michel Hart from Zurich University. All of the keynote speakers are experts in the field that have a strong bonding with infectious diseases, epidemiology and pandemic, food security, and human resiliences. Having this mentioned, we hope a strong collaboration will be built and it will bring advantages to all of us. And finally, I wish Pak Rektor to open the conference, and we also hope everybody will enjoy this conference. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Director of Universitas Syekh Kuala, Professor Dr. Insinyur Samsul Rizal, Master of Engineering.
Thank you. Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Very good morning. Peace be upon us all. Let me extend my warmest greeting and welcome to our distinguished speaker and participant of second International Conference on Veterinary, Animal and Environmental Sciences 2020. Honorable Professor Sri Hadi Agung Priyono from IPB University, Honorable Professor Graham Martin from University of Western Australia, Dr. Nur Khalida from University of Science Malaysia. We also have keynote speakers for the second session today. Professor David Modri from University of Veterinary and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Czech Republic, and Professor Musa Yafuz from Isparta University, Turkey, and Professor Jean Michel Hart from Zurich University, Switzerland. This is really an honor for us to have you participating in this very important event. In this pandemic situation, many countries have applied global restriction and lockdown. On the other hand, we are grateful that there is always a way to communicate and to meet together from different parts of the world. This pandemic makes the world seem small and the people bond together. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fighting this global pandemic has become a worldwide shared challenge. During the pandemic, we learned one thing: engaged fellowship is necessary. It means all parts, all levels of community, from decision maker to common lover, have worked together to cope with our very own situation. Each and every one of us has to fulfill our own duty. On the other hand, the COVID-19 pandemic has created distancing between countries or communities. But on the other hand, there were many opportunities for collaboration post-disaster, both technology and economic issues. A good example for this is the opportunity for Universitas Syekh Kuala and other institutions coming from countries highly affected by pandemic to be involved in producing vaccine on early detection devices. Very recently, Universitas Syekh Kuala has become a pioneer in Aceh in helping to the community to obtain a swab test or PCR test services, so that is quickly detected if there is a new infection of COVID-19 take place in certain cluster. Having this mentioned, I am glad that many experts throughout the world have gathered here in this conference to discuss various aspects related to how to mitigate and adapt and cope with the pandemic in the future. I believe there will be some new understanding, significant approach, and new methodology emerge from this conference. Finally, I wish all the participants a productive discussion throughout the seminar. I hope the pandemic will be over soon and you all can come to Banda Aceh to enjoy our culture and our nature. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the plenary session. Dr. Hewan Teguh Reza Ferashi, Master of Science, PhD, the Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Syekh Kuala, will chair the first session. Dr. Reza graduated from School of Animal Biology, University of Western Australia in Australia for his PhD degree. His current positions are the Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Syah Kuala, Indonesia, Director of Center for Tropical Veterinary Studies, One Health Collaboration Center, Universitas Syah Kuala, Coordinator of Webinar and Scientific Publication of Indonesian Veterinary Medical Association, and the first Deputy of Indonesian Veterinary Medical Association branch of Aceh Province. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Reza to chair the session.
Thank you very much, Rosalia, for pleasing me to chair the first session in this international conference. Thank you very much to Bapak Rector for giving us opening speech for this our second international conference of ICVAES today, and it will be continued until tomorrow for the plenary presentation and for panel presentation from all of the participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. For the first panel session of presentation of plenary session, we will have three keynote speakers in this session. They are Professor Dr. Hewan Sri Hadi Agung Priyono, MSc from IPB University, and then Professor Graham Martin from University of Western Australia, and then Dr. Nur Halida Abdul Hamid from University Science Malaysia. I'm very happy to have them all already with us here this morning. We know all of keynote speakers they will talk from different continent, different region. Graham from Australia, Prof. Sri Hadi, or we call him usually with his nickname, Prof. Yoni. He will speak from Bogor, and Dr. Nur Halida will give her speech from Malaysia. This is wonderful today that we can bring all of them together through this virtual media, virtual platform. And it is also what has been said by Pak Rector that today we facing a big challenge because of this pandemic, but on the other side, we try to face this challenge by managing using the technology to bring collaboration still continue between all of us. All right, before all keynote speakers giving their presentation, I would like to start by introducing you the first keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Hewan Sri Hadi Agung Priyono, MSc. Health Committee could help me to show his curriculum vitae, please. Awaludin. Please, CV from Professor Sri Hadi Agung Priyono. Okay. Okay, Professor Sri Hadi Agung Priyono, Prof. Yoni, is now is the Dean of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine of IPB University, and then is also the President of the Association of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine in Indonesia. So actually above us, from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine in Indonesia, we are under supervision by Prof. Yoni from all of for all veterinary faculty in Indonesia. Okay, this is the CV of a short CV of Prof. Yoni. He is professor of the Department of Anatomy and Anatomy, Physiology, and Pharmacology, and his expertise in veterinary anatomy. He has invention on modified procedures for some tissue preparation technique and histological, histochemical, and immunohistochemical staining procedures. And he has appreciation as brevet in a veterinary anatomy expert as consultant from the Indonesian Association of Anatomists in 2008, diploma in wildlife conservation medicine from the Asian College of Conservation Medicine in 2013, and he also received Satya Lencana Karya Satya for his service for 20 years as a government official in IPB Bogor in 2013. Current position as the Dean of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, IPB University. Since from this period will be his second service period. And before he has been in charge as the head of histology laboratory of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, IPB University, and then also as Vice Dean for Student Affairs, Secretary for Faculty of Veterinary Medicine of IPB University, and also some executive board experience as executive board member in several organizations, both in Indonesia and as well in Southeast Asia. And currently is in charge as president of his position as president of the Association of Indonesia Veterinary School, or ICVAES, from 2014 till now, and also president of Southeast Asia Veterinary School Association, Association for Southeast Asian Veterinary Medicine, from 2012 till 2015. I know there's many more experience that we should mention actually, but I think it's very long from his 20-year service, I think more now, till 2020. So this is a short CV that we can show for all of the participants of this conference. And then next we will continue with we will listen to his presentation titled One Health Approach in Global Health. Prof. Yoni, the time is yours. This virtual stage is yours now. Please, Prof. Yoni.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Reza. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to everybody. Again, let me Indonesia, and please just call me Yoni. Yeah, is my voice is good?
Yeah, very clear, Prof.
Okay. Also, my first time to see some person here, Professor Grammy from Australia. Nice to meet you, Dr. Khalida, yeah, Nur Khalida from USM. Senang jumpa dengan Dr. Khalida, ya. Thank you. And of course, all my colleagues and Excellency Pak Rektor, Professor Samsul Rizal, and our President of the Veterinary Medical Association of Indonesia, Dr. Munawaroh. It is my great pleasure to have this opportunity to give a very short, actually, some of summary of our activity actually in One Health Association here in Indonesia. So I think that the topic of this seminar may be suitable with my talk, yeah? And I will just give some examples that actually we all know very well about One Health, I think, and this is just to share some of tiny things that maybe also become benefit for our knowledge. So I will begin with my slide. Please allow me to share my screen. Yeah. So hopefully my screen is already there.
Yep.
Is it okay?
Yeah, we can see that.
Good.
Good,
Okay.
thank you.
Now, yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of my colleagues, my dear colleagues here, especially of course, my colleagues from New York, I will also give a very short story about my first visit to University of Kuala long time ago. Yeah. So my title will be One Health Approaches actually in the global health challenges. Yeah. I think this is just a very simple refresh. So as we know that the Earth, yeah, is the planet, yeah, the only planet actually that we can, human and of course a plant and animal can live. Yeah, so far, yeah, there is some research to try to check the other planets, but I think that so far also in the in the Bible, in the Al-Quran, and of course all are live in good harmony, all healthy, human health, human are health, we can live in a very good balance and good and become wealthy. Yeah, so healthiness is very important to support to aim wealthiness, yeah, and welfare. Yeah, so according to the history, so actually the profession for healers, yeah, like medical doctor now, has been started very long time ago, because human or animal, if they get sick, they would like to be treated by person that know quite well how to treat, how to cure the sickness, yeah, so that the profession of medical doctor, a previous time, a long time ago, maybe they call healers, yeah, because they just study by themselves, they learn, they try, they use natural herbal, they try how the effect of various natural herbal to cure some disease, and some person try. We know that in the very beginning of the anatomy history, some person also do dissection to study organs, to study, and then from them, from this condition, the medical as a science then developed. Yeah. So at the time, actually, healers not only treat human but also animal. Actually, they treat animals. They use so at the time there's no. We can say that no difference between healers for animals and for human. Yeah? But then in line with the development of the needs of the human needs and also science, then it is separated. It seems to be separate between the human medical education and veterinary medical education. Yeah, human medical education started earlier in 1200, about 1200 in Italy, and 500 later, the veterinary medical school, the first veterinary medicine also established in Lyon, in France. Yeah, so this is then started here in Indonesia. We have started during the Dutch occupation at that time in 1800 something. Yeah, near 1900. Yeah. And that is the first veterinary medical education in Indonesia. So actually, I would like to mention that actually in the beginning, the one medicine, one profession, they can heal, they can cure animal and human both, and then they spare it. Yeah. So in fact, actually, in their daily condition, human and animals actually share disease and health problems. Yeah, until now. So the case of research in zoonosis, in biomedical research, yeah, food safety, security, climate change has made all these conditions made the intersection between human health and animal health is become a very close interconnection. Yeah. This is one of the main examples is to show the relation, yeah, the close relationship between human, animal, and environment. We can see in the this picture, yeah, how to provide actually human or animal and plant are provided for human, yeah, as food or as friends or as to help human to work and so on, yeah, transportation and so on, yeah. But then and at that time, human medicine look like that they are separated with veterinary medicine. Yeah, human medicine, human doctor treat only human, veterinary medicine, veterinarian treat only animals. But then we know that from the environment, yeah, disease can come to human, yeah, and the disease can come from animal also, animal to environment, environment to human, yeah. And between animal also, yeah, there is we know animal, domestic animal, and for our food, yeah. But also there are much more actually wild animals, yeah. And sometimes sick animal, wild animal, sick animal can also come to domestic animal. Then domestic animal come to human, and something like that. That disease can come to also human from the wild animal, that either direct or indirectly. I think Professor Grammy will talk much about this wildlife disease. Yeah. So this is to show that actually the separation is actually not very clear. Not very clear means that we still have problem that interconnected between human health and veterinary medicine. So also in this picture that yeah, to have a good food, it should be produced from healthy animals, and healthy animals will affect to produce healthy people, and healthy animal, healthy people will of course come only from healthy environment, healthy planet, and so on. Yeah, so this picture again to show us that there is very close relationship between human, animal, and environment. And we understand that our present and future challenge actually, yeah, we take from the point of view of a human, that human population growth very rapidly, and all human of course need not only food but also place, everything, yeah, they should get from environment, yeah, either they will build houses, they will use for planting and so on, yeah, plantation and so on, and industry, so on. And then all of this activity will, we can see that some condition happen, yeah, because of human activity also, yeah, human activity also. So in this slide, it is shown that human activity will result in, of course, good things that human try to do for human life, yeah. But during the activity also there is some bad effect also, yeah. It's so Edward Wilson, he stated, he make acronym of HIPPO, yeah. HIPPO is mean that some not good result due to human activity in this planet, yeah. H for habitat destruction, I for invasive species, yeah. P pollution, the other P is overpopulation, yeah. And O stand for the over harvesting. So all this condition, has made the situation of our environment, in the we have a risk environment actually now, that by that we can see that pathogen, they can do mutation. They try to do adaptation with these changes and so on. So they are more stronger than before. And so on. Some of them cannot cure by standard drug or antibiotic and so on. And we see that there is changing in the human demographic. In some cities are very crowded. While villages now getting empty, only very old people in the village. But the village actually the primary source for the food, for agricultural. But then now the situation is changing. No more young people in villages. They go to the city and so on. They don't want to go back. Even in our university, we receive good students from every area in Indonesia. But after they graduated, some of them, I think they don't want to go back to their area to develop, something like that. And of course, globalization has made many things. Interconnection is good, but also some, like now we have the pandemic of COVID-19. By globalization, the pandemic is spreading very rapidly to other countries without borders. And of course, all of this will also one of very important things that food insecurity happen. We can see that in some areas, even in Indonesia, in my country, some area they don't have enough food and so on. And this is quite a problem for us. So all of this actually will affect healthiness. Healthiness. So not only by disease actually, but the environment situation will also affect our healthiness. So now I would like to give a short story about this condition. In this slide, you can see several pictures actually. And the picture, I think some of you are familiar. This picture taken from Google, from internet, and this is about the Nipah outbreaks. Nipah outbreaks in Malaysia, in Dr. Khalida's country at that time, 1997. And this year, I always tell people about this story because I think that I indirectly involved in this story. Why? So at that time, 1997 is the year that I first time came visit University of Kuala together with my professor at the time, Professor Yamada from Japan. We use Garuda 152 Jakarta Medan. At the time, not so many. I think there's no direct flight yet from Jakarta to Banda Aceh. So we have to fly to Medan. Then at the time I use a car from Medan to Kuala, to Banda Aceh. It's this very fortunately for me, that at the time my professor came to Indonesia earlier than the schedule. 1 week earlier. So we went to Kuala 1 week earlier at that time. I think Professor Muslim Akmal remember when I first time visit Kuala. At the time, the dean was Professor Jamat Manan, I think, Dr. Reza. Yes. So then the next week, I think next 2 weeks, next week, we got this report that GA 152 has crashed in Sibolangit, in Medan, in Sibolangit, Medan. Why? Because and all all passengers died. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, all passengers died at that time. Yeah, and why? Because at that time, in 1997 to 1998, about middle of 1998, there is a El Nino. Yeah, and this increased the surface and sea level temperature, yeah, above some above standard, yeah. So the situation is very hot in Indonesia, and especially in Kalimantan and Sumatra area, because of many fire, yeah, forest fire, and give smoke. So the smoke covered all the airport in Medan. So pilot they could not see very well, and the plane crashed the Sibolangit near the airport at the time. Yeah. So this is the story of the plane, but actually it's not that condition. Yeah. The smoke and the hot situation in Kalimantan and Sumatra make the production of fruits in Kalimantan and Sumatra decrease, yeah, very much. Yeah? So there's no fruits to some animals, yeah? Including the flying fox, the big Pteropus family, yeah? Very big bat. So they fly from our country to Dr. Khalida country, yeah? At the time, maybe they don't need passport to come. So flying fox, and we know that flying fox is can fly very far, yeah, very long distance. So they fly from Kalimantan and Sumatra to the Semenanjung, Malaysia, to the Malaysia, yeah. And along they stay because so many fruits along the Nipah River, yeah. The path of Nipah River, they stay there and they get food there, and they eat and they stay. But below this, there's many pig farms, yeah, pig farms, and pig eat the droplet from this flying fox, and they got the Nipah virus, and thousands of pigs dead at that time. Yeah? And not only 1,000 pigs, but also this disease is zoonosis and killed some people, hundreds of people in Malaysia dead. Yeah, so this is a very sad story. But and this story is revealed by Dr. Chua at the time from University of Malaya. Yeah, now I think now he is in the Singapore in Singapore. Yeah? And he make this analysis that the flying fox actually come from Kalimantan, Sumatra, come because of very hazy smoke at that time, and no fruits in not enough fruits, so they come to Malaysia. Yeah, so this is sad story, but this is, we can see that environment changing will make the behavior or changing of the animal life, and then they go to other places and they spread the disease there, and outbreak happen and so on. Yeah, and so this is a very, very sad story, but very interesting study for us to understand that there is a very close relationship, actually, environment, human, and animal. Yeah, and some people maybe they don't sometimes they don't care or they don't understand that the outbreak will impact economy very much. Like in this case, in Nipah cases, this is not only people killed, but also the economic are also have influence. Yeah, so because animal industry will affect to other industry as well. Yeah, to other agriculture, to other industry like feeding, like we can see here that palm oil, gum, coconut industry in Malaysia all drop at time of Nipah virus. Yeah? So indirectly like that. So because there's also this product is also need for the pig farms. Yeah, like that. Yeah. So this is some of. Then the other example is disease in wildlife. I think Professor Grammy will talk more detail and much more interesting about this in his presentation later. But I just to say that wildlife disease has largely been neglected because of our small knowledge about the wildlife. Yeah, and of course, there's not easy for us to study wildlife. I have to spend quite long time just to see how flying fox behavior in the roosting area and so on, in the midnight, very early morning, have to take camera and so on, make notes, very difficult. Yeah, catch some and then put the telemetry and then study the one species. We don't know, there are so many species. And yeah, most zoonosis disease reported come from actually wildlife in the first time. Yeah, then also it is important us that we also should be very careful. The animal may be directly contact with us, but that can spread the disease as well, yeah? Like mosquito, the ticks, yeah, flies, and so on, that they bring harmful material, pathogen like virus and so on from animals, wildlife animals, especially come to human. Yeah, so this is things that the connection very close, and all things need to be care should be taken to take this. And the last issue is about the AMR and MDR, yeah? Antimicrobial resistant and multi-drug resistant. As we know that high technology, yeah, high knowledge and high technology and very rapid speed of industry in the animal or human medicine, human drugs, has made that the drug is now we have a very good drug of choice. But then the microbe, the virus, the bacteria, they can do mutation, they can do adaptation to this condition, yeah? So that they then resistant to some drugs, and this has become very problem for human. Yeah, some diseases cannot be treated with some antibiotics. Yeah, so many people died because of infection. And so on. Yeah, so because of this condition, so it is important for us, yeah, to take care about this issue. In veterinary medicine, also the issue, yeah. Improper or misuse of antibiotics to animals also will result in some food origin from animals contaminated also with some resistant antibiotic and so on. Yeah? Something like that. So this is so for the last of my slide. I'm sorry that maybe take quite long. Actually, One Health is not just only disease. Yeah, the situation that we talk, the climate changing, the whatever situation happen, actually, bad situation will disturb the healthy condition of human because of the environmental not in good condition. Yeah? So we should understand that not only we try our mindset to see the disease, but also let us to see also what happened in our environment. Yeah? So again, not only disease, One Health is not only considered to the disease, but also so many things that happen. Yeah, we just talk about climate changing, we just talk about pollution, we just talk about pathogen adaptability, and antimicrobial resistance, and so on. But still, some other changes happen. and it is need us to take care about that. Yeah, social culture things. Yeah, in some area, people they raise animals like their babies. Yeah, they have children, but they have also animals as their children. They said, yeah, and they live together. And of course, this is. In some area, this is a tradition that should be maintained. Yeah? But of course, something like this is our concern also to have us to still give them advocacy and so on. Yeah, still our homework is still quite many. Yeah, we have to solve. Yeah. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. So again, I thanks very much to Syah Kuala University, Dr. Reza, and all my colleagues. And I'd like to say thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Yoni. It was very great presentation. You will start with a big picture of the development of this sign, and then you will explain to us about some transboundary disease that might already spread between the country and region, and then you conclude with One Health consequences that we need to sit together, of course, in the future from now on to prepare ourselves to face another big challenge in this health aspect. Thank you very much. I know I'm sure most of the participants already read down the question to be addressed to Prof. Yoni, but please keep your question for some time until all the keynote speakers in this session complete their presentation. Then we will open for discussion session, question and answer, of course. Thank you very much again, Prof. Yoni. Hope you, of course, we need you to stay with us for this session. And then we will continue for the next keynote speaker with us, who already here with us, Professor Graham Martin. Prof. Graham, please allow me to read your short CV that we got it from the website of University of Western Australia. So, Professor Graham Martin, now he's as emeritus professor, and then he completed his BSc degree in agriculture and PhD degree also from University of Western Australia. Senior honorary research fellow at the Faculty of Science, University School of Agriculture and Environment. His role and responsibilities now it mentioned leadership in teaching and research in livestock science and agricultural science. I'm sure you will notice how big this responsibility from him, since he has many experience both in education and also some position. I already mentioned about his education experience. The position previously he was as visiting professor at Nutfield Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Oxford University from 2013 to 2014, and then from 2007 till 2013 he was as a head of School of Animal Biology of UWA, and then chair of Academic Board and Academic Council of University, Dean of Postgraduate Research School of the University of Western Australia, Deputy Chair of Academic Board and Academic Council of the University of Western Australia. Could you bring down Awal? And then bring it to the bottom, please. Show it again, the CP. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bawa ke bawah lagi. Ada habis. Okay. And then, sorry. Okay, please. Diperlihatkan lagi CV-nya. Okay. All right. And professor at Faculty of Science, School of Animal Biology. Okay. Sorry, sorry for program, because we are using technology. So sometimes a little bit problem. And external position as associate member, Academy d'Agriculture de France. And hope I read it correct way. Editor-in-chief of the journal Reproduction, Fertility and Development, Sairo Publishing, a young professor at Curtin University of Technology. The most very interest planning for his research, which called Future Research UWA Future Farm 2050. I'm sure Professor Graham will explain to us what it means during his presentation. Professor Graham, time is yours. This virtual stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Reza. Thank you, everybody, for attending to listen to me. But thank you to the invitation from Pak Hambal and Pak Reza. It's a great pleasure to be in Indonesia, even if I am not really there, and to see a lot of my old friends in Aceh as well as the rest of Indonesia. I am going to give you a very broad context about animal ethics and how it's involved in livestock industries. So I will share my screen. So the title of my presentation is Ethical Management for Livestock Health and Production. Ethics is becoming more and more important in our industries, not just here in Australia, but Indonesia and around the world. And so it's important that I give you a general context. Basically, this is driven by the fact that in our societies, the attitudes of people are changing. So we have a lot of animal products, and they may be milk and cheese and meat and so forth. But there is a change in the way people are thinking about this. And in particular, these three words have become what we call new market forces. So what we're considering here is what clean means the use of less hormones and drugs. And we've just heard Prof. Yoni talking about the problem with antibiotics. Green means smaller environmental footprint, so ecosystem care. And of course, ethics is animal ethics and welfare, where we consider whether the animals are happy or not. Traditionally in animal products, the quality has been measured by the taste and the smell and the safety. Does it taste good? Does it smell good? And is it safe to eat? But now people are asking, where does the food come from? How is it produced? And this question is becoming more and more prominent in the market. And so we therefore feel that if we do not adopt these concepts, clean and green and ethical, then we have a risk in the market that people will no longer buy the products. And so worldwide, we see that all animal industries must see these three words in their future. So today I'm focusing on the ethical issues. In the past at other conferences in Indonesia, I've focused on the others, but today I've been asked to talk about the ethical consequences. So what will we discuss? So the ethical problems in livestock industries, there are quite a number, but I only have a few minutes. So I'm going to discuss only four: health and welfare, neonatal mortality, stress, and the use of the wrong genotype. And so what we have here to control these ethical issues and to resolve the problems and prevent them is we have management tools. And in particular, I will focus today on genetics and nutrition. Most of the examples I use will be Australian sheep because that's where I work. But it's important that you remember that the principles are more important than the detail. They are examples. And so what I want you to do is take my global perspective and see how you can use it for local action. So the first is health and welfare, and the example I want to use is a veterinary example of Helminth fly strike complex. So this is a familiar problem for all animal industries all around the world. And what we have is a continual problem of gastrointestinal nematodes, the helminths. Of course, they produce eggs in the feces that exist then on the pasture, and become larvae. And I love this photograph on the left there, because inside this tiny drop of water, you can see the small worms that are sitting there waiting for the sheep to eat them. Of course, the sheep then eats these worms and they become part of the internal population. For us in Australia, in Western Australia, these two species are important, Trichostrongylus and Ostatagia. This problem is not alone, however. There are complexities here, one of which is that the worms cause diarrhea. The diarrhea then attracts a fly called Lucilia cuprina, and it lays its eggs in the back of the sheep in the wool and causes fly strike or myiasis. And this is a really horrible, horrible thing to happen to any animal. So it's important for us. It costs about $680 million per year in Australia's sheep industry. And of course, it has market risks. First of all, we tend to use too much medication and not use it correctly. So we have a problem in the area we call clean. On the ethical side, there are clear impacts on health and on animal welfare. The solutions. Well, the first is genetics. We can breed sheep that are resistant to worms. And the second is nutrition. We can use bioactive plants that produce molecules that fight the worms and help us. Let me show you the value of genetics. This is work done by my colleague Johan Krief here in Australia. He's looked at worm eggs per gram of feces, so worm egg counts on the left-hand axis there, and looked at the change with time over, as you can see, quite a long period, about 20 years. And he began to genetically select animals to be resistant. And so when animals are not selected and they're just randomly bred, you have no real change in worm egg counts. But with genetic selection for fewer worms, you can see that you push the number of worms down quite significantly. And down here in 2006, effectively the problem is not a real problem at all. It's almost disappeared completely as an economic issue in the animal production systems. The heritability is about 0.6. And for anybody who understands genetics, this is a very high value for heritability. So it means that you can make these changes very, very quickly over only a few generations. The second solution was bioactive forages. So what we've been doing here is investigating plant species to look at what they can do to worm development, larval development in vitro. And so what we have is as you look along here, the percentage of larvae developed on the x-axis, you can see that out on the right-hand side, we have a lot of plants that make no difference whatsoever. But the other plants here can reduce worms and reduce worm development. And one on the left there, for example, producing less than 20% worms are allowed to develop. And so we can see that these plants are producing molecules that can help us to fight this problem. Amongst the species in Australia that we've been using are these ones. These are the ones that have the most powerful effects. And so you won't recognise them because they're basically from our environment. They evolved in Australia. But my message also about this is that you need to look around you to see what plants you have in your own environment that can help you with this process, because you can add these plants to the diet of animals. So my second problem I want to talk about is neonatal mortality. So here, let me talk first about the size of the problem, right? So in Australia, this is merino sheep in Australia, about 10% of single lambs die and about 30% of twin lambs die. And so this becomes a typical value of something like 15 to 17 million lambs every year that are dying. Now, they die mostly in the first week after birth. The annual cost to production is about $450 million. The annual cost of prevention is about $100 million. So we're losing $500 million a year because of this problem, and it's completely preventable. Also, there is a genetic loss. If you have your best male and your best female and you put them together and they produce a lamb that you then let die, you've lost your genetic advance. There's clearly a market risk. This is an ethical issue. So the solutions are feeding for colostrum, but to feed for colostrum, we need ultrasound. So this is transabdominal ultrasound. We can do it in sheep 45 to 85 days after conception. Farmers themselves can't do this, so we bring in an outside person who is an expert to do it for them. And I see this as a really valuable contribution that veterinary faculties can make to animal production systems. Why is it important? It allows us to identify non-pregnant females. And if they are non-pregnant for, say, the second time, you should probably cull them. It allows us to plan for nutrition during pregnancy. We can have a different nutritional regime for animals with twin fetuses versus those with one fetus. For the current situation I'm talking about, though, it allows us to plan for nutrition to improve colostrum production. It also allows us to improve conditions for birth, providing shelter. And this is especially important for twin lambs because they are born small. Finally, this is not a joke. This is not a veterinary thing. It's actually a profitable part of the industry. So we can show that this improves profitability to use this technique. As a consequence now, it's becoming very popular in Australia. So let me bring this together here. We would do ultrasound at about 6 weeks after mating, so in the first part of pregnancy. This then allows us to supplement for the final week of pregnancy. Providing the female sheep with extra nutrition at this time improves colostrum production. Under some circumstances, you can have twice as much colostrum produced. Why is colostrum important? As I'm sure you all know, it helps with cold resistance, more of a problem in our climate than in yours. It helps with disease resistance. It provides water to the newborn animal to prevent dehydration. And it is involved, this transfer of colostrum from mother to young is involved in the lamb identifying its mother and bonding to its mother. So these are really important factors in terms of the survival of the newborn. My third problem is stress. So let me give you some context here, a bit of an Australian context perhaps, modern livestock management. I think traditionally, as Prof. Yoni was talking about the history of veterinary medicine, the history of livestock was that generally speaking, things were done slowly. These days, we seem to want to go faster. So, for example, in Australia, if we want to move the animals from one part of a farm to another part, we use dogs. We use highly trained dogs, right? Sometimes not so highly trained, I must admit. So, what is a dog? For us, what we see when we see a dog is we see this, a beautiful animal that is a friend to humankind. But what does the sheep see? The sheep sees this. And so we need to understand that although we can use dogs and they're very effective, the sheep is very much afraid of it. There are millions of years of evolutionary biology telling the sheep that this is a very dangerous animal and it's very, so therefore it's stressful. So dogs are predators. We use noisy motorbikes, and this is very disturbing, especially if at the time that lambs are being born. We have angry humans who get frustrated because the animals do not do what we want them to do. This is stressful for humans, and it's even more stressful for the animals. So the question we need to ask here is stress a bad thing, or is it just a brief period of stress and then goes away? So let's talk about stress. Stress is a brain function primarily, and a lot of the endocrine responses come from the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. In the hypothalamus in particular, you have a small blood vessels connecting the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland. And there's blood going through here that then distributes hormones, pituitary hormones, throughout the body. The neurons in this part, the brain we're talking about, produce corticotrophin-releasing hormone, or CRH, and vasopressin. And these two hormones control ACTH. ACTH controls the adrenal cortex to produce cortisol. So this process is a normal part of homeostasis, and it really doesn't worry us too much. The problem is, of course, is we provide a stressor, then we have a lot more cortisol, or the glucocorticoids. This inhibits the immune system, drains the energy stores, reduces, for example, glycogen levels in muscle, and stops reproduction. So you can see that excessive stress here will cause really major problems in terms of animal productivity as well as animal welfare. So stress is bad. What is the solution? Again, the solution is calm animals. So genetics. We can use genetics to improve the calmness of our livestock. We also would like to have more calm humans. So how does this work then? Well, a stressor is evaluated by the brain of the animal. The brain perceives a stressor, and it might be a high temperature, it might be the presence of a predator or a human. It evaluates this and decides if it's a problem. And then there are three types of reaction. The first is a psychological response, the feelings, which we would understand for when we are personally stressed. The second one is a behavioral response, and the third is a physiological response. The physiological response I've just described to you. This is the pituitary gland controlling the adrenal gland and cortisol production. The behavioral response is more complicated. It's what we call emotional reactivity. So the animal reacts behaviorally in response to the stress. And here we have what we call temperament. Are the animals calm or are they nervous? Clearly, if they're calm, their behavioral response will be a little bit more controlled. If they're nervous, they will effectively panic. Importantly here is that the psychological response, we cannot measure in animals. We cannot ask the sheep or the goat, how do you feel? Because it cannot tell us. But the other two parts of the response, the behavior and the physiology, we can measure. And now we also know that we can apply genetic solutions here because there are two genes in particular, and we've got SNPs that are involved in calm and nervous temperament that control the behavioral response at brain level and control the endocrine response in the adrenal gland. And we can change the genetics of the animals to change these two genes and then change the way they respond to stress. So my fourth and final point is genotype for the environment. So I need to broaden out my perspective here a little bit and talk about a worldwide perspective for livestock industries. We asked this question a few years ago in a workshop, can livestock help feed the world without destroying the planet? And we had this workshop which led to this publication, which I urge you to go and read. It's very easy to read, but it gives you a lot of the justification around what I'm talking about now. So in this workshop, we understood that there's a pressure on the food supply, as Professor Yoni pointed out to you in the previous talk, right? We have population growth in humans, we have climate change, urbanization, biofuel production, and demand for animal protein. All of these things are happening at the same time, and this is putting pressure on our food supplies. For livestock to contribute to this situation, we need some steps for the livestock to become sustainable. The first is we need to stop livestock competing with humans for food. We need to grow food for humans and feed it to humans instead of animals. Human nutrition needs to be better than it is right now. Livestock, we cannot simply abandon livestock because they are relevant to local culture. Environmental footprint needs to be reduced. We need correct animal nutrition. We need correct animal health, control of stress and animal welfare. And we need also to make sure we have the right genotypes for our environment. I can't go through all of these today because I don't have time, but the bottom two here are the ethical considerations. And I've just finished talking about animal health, stress and welfare. Now I want to talk about genotype. So let me give you an example, beginning with the Holstein dairy cattle, which is a sort of dominant animal in the USA. These animals can produce 30 litres of milk per day, but they are bred for this environment. They're bred for intensive management, and they are bred for a temperate climate, not a tropical climate. Let me show you what's happened here historically, right? This is a graph of milk production for the Holstein over the period starting in about 1960. And we've used modern genetic techniques to really increase the amount of milk that these animals produce. A really remarkable change where basically it's almost doubled over that period of time. Unfortunately, there's been a side effect, and the side effect is that the fertility of the animals has declined and it's gone right down. And so this is a serious issue in the industry. Luckily, the industry began to understand how serious it was, and 10 or 15 years ago began to address it. And so now we're beginning to see an improvement. What happened there was we had abnormal ovarian activity, we had cystic ovaries, we had a low conception rate, we had more insemination needed per pregnancy, we had a low pregnancy rate, more days not pregnant. And in the end, the Holstein became the world's most infertile farm animal. We also have other issues: high somatic cell counts, clinical mastitis, metritis, displaced abomasum and ketosis, and lameness. So in the end, this combination, this long list of problems tells us we have high production, but a very short productive life. The animals do not live for very long in an intensive dairy situation. So we have an imbalance. The balance between milk production and health, welfare, and reproduction has been lost. And of course, these issues down here are the ethical issues that we need to address. They are still there, these ethical issues. Okay, so let's imagine we take these animals and we export them to Asia or Africa. We Australians have done this. I'm not very proud to say this, okay? We exported dairy cattle to Sri Lanka where they began to die. Hundreds of cattle died in Sri Lanka. The local farmers say it has left them broke. So in other words, their business has collapsed. And in some cases, they are so depressed as to be suicidal. Now, the livestock exporters are sort, they have a different interpretation, right? Livestock exporter says Sri Lankan farmers haven't been managing the dairy heifers properly. So the person who exports the animals is blaming the farmer, and that is completely wrong. So when we export these animals to Asia and Africa, they end up in a completely different environment. First of all, they are bred for a temperate climate, so they're not resistant to heat, diseases, or parasites. There are extra costs, a lot of costs for disease management because they're not resistant to the diseases and parasites. And the pasture is cut and carry, or in some situations, very expensive feed is imported. Production is still less than 30% that you would expect. The consequence is that the expenses are greater than the extra income, and hence a problem for these farmers who are trying to work with imported animals. So what is the solution? The solution is, again, genetics. We need to begin with local cattle because they're resistant to the local climate and they're resistant to the local disease. It's a very good place to start as a foundation for an industry. And in fact, the FAO was worried about this because 21% of the world's indigenous breeds are in danger of extinction. If these animals become extinct, we lose the genes that they carry that are so vital for us in our future industries. Then we take these local cattle and we add modern genetics and genomics to improve production. Now, I'm going to show you an example here out of Africa. The Sanga breed, as you can see in this photograph here, my colleague, Dr. Frederick Obese from the University of Ghana. So what he's done is he looked at milk production in these animals, and he's measured it in the weeks postpartum after birth. And what happens in the Sanga is that you don't get much change. It's a very low level of production, 1 kilogram per day. And by introducing genes from the Holstein in a careful way, he's actually increased milk production significantly. And yet he's retained the disease resistance and the temperature resistance that is essential for his environment. So we need to be intelligent about this. I'm not saying Holstein genes are bad genes. What I'm saying is you only want the good genes from the Holstein. Let me give you another example, which is northern cattle in Australia. Across the north of Australia, we have a very large cattle industry. And we began when the British colonists bought British animals, Herefords and Shorthorns. They evolved in a temperate climate, not in northern Australia. So they were very poor productivity, very high mortality rates. They were not resistant to ticks, for example. We solved the problem by introducing Bos indicus. So animals that were coping with the environment. They evolved in the tropical, subtropical climate, and they are now the foundation of the industry. And since they arrived in 1970, they've added $8 billion to the economy. So let me sum up here, Dr. Reza. These are the steps to sustainable livestock. What I've done today is focus on the ethical problems, health and welfare, neonatal mortality, stress, and the wrong genotype. And then we find we have tools available these days, modern genetics and modern nutrition that can help us to solve these problems.
Thank you very much, Graham. Yeah. You finished with your presentation, right?
I have.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Graham Martin. That was very great sharing of your expertise, of course, and also your talk on how we should face the future with the livestock and also human health and environmental as well. I already take some notes from some important message from you. Of course, from the 4 aspects you were mentioned, that health, environmental issue, genotype, and also nutrition of animal. I'm sure the participant also already write down some questions that will be addressed to you, program, in the discussion session after the last keynote speaker in this panel. And of course, this year you are not in Banda Aceh, actually. You are directly with us for giving your presentation and also the workshop for scientific publication as well. And I'm feeling lucky that sometime I was in Australia and watching how your team were select the calm and nervous sheep to improve their production. It's like the best one within 1,000 of them. Thank you very much again, Graham, for this presentation. And we will continue with the next speaker. Before that, I would like to mention as well that here already Professor Musa Yafuz from Turkey, from Isparta, Turkey, has already joined us. I know the time there is still very early in Turkey, but thank you very much. You already joined with us for this, the start of this session, first panel session of Professor Musa Yafuz. Next speaker, the last speaker in this session is Dr. Nur Halida Abdul Hamid from University Saint Malaysia. She will will give her presentation titled Sustainable Aquafeed. I'm sure Dr. Nur Halida will show us a complete battle in her presentation. Before I give the time for Dr. Nur Halida, please allow me to mention her short CV. She completed her PhD from Deakin University, Australia, and then the Master of Science from University of Saint Malaysia, and Bachelor of Application of Science, also from University of Saint Malaysia. She is now as a lecturer at School of Biological Sciences. And from her website, we found that she already won many research funding, both from Malaysia government and also from other private sector, it seems, and also from the university in Malaysia, or Ministry of Education or Higher Education. And some publication already published by Dr. Nur Halida, and all very highly cited, I'm sure. She will share with us about her expertise and also her talk in this session. I would like to remind you as well that the theme of this second ICVAES is strategies for achieving sustainable development goals post-pandemic COVID-19 through research in veterinary, animals, and environmental sciences. Dr. Nur Halida, the time is yours, please.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Reza. I'd like to share my screen. Hang on, I'm not sure. I'm trying to share my screen to, hang on. Right. All right, can you see the screen?
Not yet. It says, yeah, we can see it very clear.
So you can see it, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm going to turn it to PowerPoint presentation. All right, good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum, and thank you very much. I'm so grateful that this is the second time I've been invited for this conference. It was my first time to Banda Aceh was last year. So it was such a great experience meeting all the academicians, researchers, and also the community from the Faculty of Veterinary, Kuala. So for this year also, when I was offered to be one of the speaker, I said like, this is opportunity for me. And yes, again, listening from the first and second speaker, I do learn a lot as well. So what I'm sharing is probably very partly of what work that I'm working at University of Science Malaysia. So my focus is really into sustainable aquafeed. Probably just like what Prof. Graham was saying about livestock, is similar to aquaculture, feeding the animal with correct nutrition also play roles in sustainability of the industry. So as much as in livestock, aquaculture also having or facing the same issue of the sustainability. Partly we want to provide food for the community, for the people, but in the same time we also challenge the ecology in so many ways. So in aquaculture, just briefly about the industry, this industry hasn't been into spotlight until mid-1990, probably in 1994, when the industry started to bloom. Earlier than that, aquaculture is just a small part of the seafood production in comparison to fisheries or wild-caught fish. So starting from that moment in 1994, world start to experience such a bloom in aquaculture, seeing countries like China, which is the pioneer of the aquaculture, start to get to become player in aquaculture. Most of European countries, Southeast Asia, start to get into the industry and start to culture seafood or fish in a very intensive way. So in general, culturing aquatic animal, you can divide it into three: extensive, semi-intensive, and intensive. The trend following 1994 is rather into very intensive culture, meaning that they are culturing a lot of fish in a very small compound. And this required what we call supplement food, or I would say that the fish relies solely on the pelleted food in order to grow. All right, so because of this, it become a concern, because mainly the fish that we culture eat fish to grow. And the main ingredient in fish feed is fish meal. And that's for protein, and the lipid source is from fish oil, which is also extracted from the fish itself. Yes, it is extracted from, carcasses or processed fish, but the idea is these two ingredients are still originated from wild-caught fish. So it became a notion in global level among the scientists, and also some community that concerned about what does it make sense that we catch wild fish to feed the fish, not directly consume the fish. So because of that, looking into the feed conversion ratio and the value and how much the carbon footprint left behind from the aquaculture industry, a huge concern has already developed. And I think starting from early 2000, there are tremendous research being done in order to substitute fish oil with fish meal, fish oil with other alternative ingredients. And during that time, soybean meal has been seen as one of the ingredients. However, this ingredient is not what we call compatible to the fish meal itself. All right. So seeing that a lot more research has been done in order to make what else in order to actually substitute fish meal. All right. The beauty of the fish meal, I would say, and fish oil, these ingredients is a premium standard of aquafeed ingredient. Fish meal protein has a lot of what we call essential amino acid, indispensable amino acid that human beings or most of animal cannot produce it. So because of that, it makes the protein from fish meal is high quality protein. Same with fish oil. The reason why we consume fish, because we want to have the quality of the lipid, that is long-chain fatty acid, which has came into the group of omega-3. These fatty acids cannot be found in freshwater fish. It's really exclusively found in marine fishes, and same like marine plant like seaweed. So because of this, fish meal and fish oil are always be the premium standard, or some researchers called it gold standard of aquafeed. And even if the aquaculture or aquafeed doesn't utilize fish meal at the optimum level, other industries such as pet food in cat food, they will still include this fish meal because of the quality. So the inclusion of fish meal and fish oil has been in aquafeed for a very long time. However, during those time, the concern isn't severe or serious because the activity of aquaculture, as I said before, hasn't been so drastically increased as like what we experience nowadays. So the dilemma about this fish meal and fish oil, looking into the productions of itself, because as I said, as the aquaculture industry increase, the demand to make the feed is also increased. So what happened is, starting from 1994, the fish landing to get the fish meal raw materials start to get stagnant. Ever since that year, about 5.5 metric tons of fish meal being produced, and only like 1 million metric tons of fish oil. And these numbers isn't great when we are seeing an incline in the aquaculture industry. And not just that, we see the reduction in fisheries industries, meaning that not so many people going in at least I can say in Malaysia's conditions, like fisheries is no longer a sole way to get fish. So people are turning into aquaculture in order to get fish protein, either it is mariculture or freshwater culture. All right. So by looking into these, strong growing demand of fish meal and fish oil, so we can always relate to this to the what we call direct economic response. Higher demand, less production, the price will increase. So what actually happens in this situation? So when the fish meal and fish oil prices start to increase, so the feed start to get more expensive, and the cost productions of the aquaculture also relatively high. So because of this dilemma, the urge to find more sustainable food ingredients is rather intense. So a lot of incentive has been actually given for most of the country around the globe to find the alternative, and some even come out with promotion, what I call a mechanism, a scheme in order to support on how to manage or utilize fish meal in more sustainable way. And in fact, in some, I think industry, they give certification on how much, or how less fish meal you use or you include in your aquafeed. All right, now, in order to actually replace or substitute fish meal, we actually need to look what's so special about fish meal itself. All right, and I said before, it is because of the profile of the amino acid in the fish meal. If you look at here, the data that I show here is fish meal in comparison to black soldier fly larvae, pre-pupae, and some of these structures have been used for fish feed. Nowadays, insects meal or insects protein has been a huge thing, and a lot of industry start to switch to insect meal. However, there are a lot of things that need to be considered, that what makes fish meal still the superior ingredients in comparison to the other potential ingredients such as insect meal. If you look at here, like, all right, the essential amino acid like in lysine, if you look at on your right, fish meal has around like 53%, whereas in insects it's about 22%, which is half of the content that fish meal provides. Same goes with other non-essential amino acids. If you look at this profile, some might argue that as long as we provide, a certain essential amino acid in the diet, it will be suffice. In physiology, it doesn't work that way. All these components actually work dynamically and synergistically, meaning that some of, although it's non-essential amino acid, it is part of the substrate or a component for what we call secondary messenger, or to produce certain things to help things work better in a lot of ways. So because of this profile, it's always tough to find what we call the substitute or replacement. Same with fatty acids. All right. If we look at the profile, fish meal still has a lot more high quality on the omega-3 content. However, the beauty about this insects meal, because of insects always have ability to bioconvert raw ingredients into better quality form of ingredients. So what does it has to do with fish meal and fish oil replacement and sustainable aquafeed productions? This thing we have to look into a very holistic way. By looking into substitute of fish meal doesn't mean we have to opt out 100% of fish meal. What we can do is, if looking at the profile of fatty acid and amino acid, we can actually look into what we call a puzzle, like how we're going to match. If there are certain things that we need to include it in order to substitute it, so we try to find the ingredients. So nowadays, researchers start to look into that way rather than replacing fish meal as a whole ingredient. So the strategy here is in the fish feed or aqua feed, you will see a lot more ingredients instead of like a few main ingredients in order to make the feed rather sustainable and to reduce the amount used, the fish meal and fish oil used in the aqua feed. This is partly has been, I would say, successful in salmon culture. However, even the salmon culture also has its own dilemma about the aqua feed and so on and so forth. But in our context in Southeast Asia, especially in developing countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, so aquaculture is still part of our economic income, and aquafeed always be one of the issue in order for the farmers to grow further, because of the reliance of what we call on the fish meal that is imported ingredients. So how are we going to overcome this? Because whenever that we want to substitute the fish meal and fish oil, for instance, using other ingredients, another thing that it comes into the picture is what we call anti-nutrients. All right, just like in soybean meal, they have soybean has anti-nutrition that also will hinder growth performance. Although some of the process will actually destroy that component, but the residue of that will remain in the diet. So same goes with other alternative ingredients such as insect meal, because some of the insect meal may contain high chitin, which is indigested by fish. Same with other plant. Whenever that some of the ingredient been introduced, so what I say that issues will occur. So in order to overcome this, we need a strategic approach, like seeing things in and do things in a different way. So instead of just like, as I mentioned before, like replacing it 100% or certain amount, we look into combination of technology and nutritional strategies, like matching the profile with the new ingredients and what else that we can actually treat the raw ingredient prior to the feed making. For instance, they nowadays current development in dietary supplementation, like they call biogenic feed, by adding certain artificial amino acids, putting attractants, exogenous enzymes such as papain and bromelain. Papain is actually enzyme extracted from papaya leaves or young papaya's saps, the white sap from the fruits, and bromelain. These two enzymes has been actually demonstrated that are able to help digestions and improve nutrient absorptions by the fish, especially in breaking down plant proteins. So this is kind of like alternative into including alternative plant protein I wouldn't say to replace, to substitute or to complement the amount of amino acid needed in the diet. The inclusion of pre and probiotics also play huge roles, because apart from the digestive enzyme from the animal itself, probiotic and prebiotic also helps those digestibility and digestions. There are a lot more ways to look into in substituting fish meal or marine ingredients. Another thing that would also help, which is sustainable aquafeed, by selecting the species itself, like innovation in selective breeding. For instance, tilapia is one of the typical example how genetically improved farm tilapia has better growth than other type of tilapia. So whenever that we feed the fish with even regular feed, the fish be able to grow faster. And another thing that we also need to look into making the diet more efficient is by looking into culture system. For example, by making the culture system enriched with natural food resource like microbes and also microalgae. For some fish, like herbivorous, when I say herbivorous, all the fish are omnivorous, but they tend to get to omnivorous. They can consume these microalgae and provide them with certain nutrient that the food unable to give, to provide to the fish. All right, in my context, I'm working very closely with the community. The reason why, because I think in my situation, I need to empower local community, and this become even more meaningful with this current situation during pandemic. Aquaculture industry has been affected dearly. In Malaysia, a lot of aquaculture industry has to face severe business issue, because a lot of the restaurant has to shut down, and the supply chain of the fish has been broken down. So because of this, to tally up with the cost of feed and everything, it doesn't actually giving much profit to the operators. So working with the community, encourage the community to look into what are actually available in our current place or in the country or in a state. So by working with locally produced raw ingredients, it will provide us what we call more reliable source. Although that commercially available is more stable, but having something close by, it will help the community to work with the ingredients. And the local ingredients that been produced for the fish feed also been developed by the community. So it is as I said, that more like community network in order to support aquaculture by producing local ingredient for aquafeed. And where I'm looking into this is the candidates of local ingredients must be able to be reproducible, and also it can be supplied in abundance, meaning that the presence is in abundance. So we can have it in huge amount or even a small amount, but if the community be able to work together in order to collect them. So this can be part of what we call sustainable aquafeed ingredients. And like you see the picture, the larvae on your left is actually black soldier fly larvae that we've been using to feed fish in aquatic research complex. And also one of the main ingredient that I've been working with the local community. So the beauty about these insects is it's transformed waste into higher protein, meaning that they themselves converting waste, organic waste, and making them higher content in protein. Waste can be in any type of waste. Indonesia, for example, has oil palm plantation and process the oil palm industry. So this BSF larvae is actually consuming the waste. So rather than just wasting it, so from lower protein content, so black soldier fly transform and convert it into higher protein content. The other ingredient that I'm working with the community is mosquito fern or Azolla pinnata. Research has been done before. This is not something new. Insects protein, plant protein like Azolla has been done like I think for past 20 years. But it's just that during those time when it was reported, this ingredient was used directly as food ingredients in aquafeed. When we conduct more research, we realize that there are certain components that we need to do in order to make it more like accessible by the fish and easily digested by the fish. So some of these ingredients need to be treated by exogenous enzyme, like more practical way for the farmers to use it. Now, this slide is about the trend, the market price of the fish meal. The reason why I'm focusing into local ingredients because of this issue. This data is actually for, I think, 10 years of fish meal price. If you see from in 2010 until 2020, the price fluctuate, and last 5 years or 6 years, the price is actually become stable. The problem here is it is being, trade in US dollar. Although the price is stable, the currency exchange of US dollar per country isn't stable. So for some countries, their currency continue to drop, and it's very hard for them to get fish meal for aquafeed. Especially developing country like Malaysia, Indonesia, and some other developing country like South Africa or all the African continent. So looking into locally produced alternative ingredients is one of the way to substitute fish meal in the diet. In addition to that, apart from fish meal, soybean meal also part of huge chunk in aquafeed. And in Malaysia, we imported soybean meal from China and Brazil, and again, it been traded in US dollar, and it's really unstable in such way. So for this country, like a developing country, we are totally reliant or dependent on currency exchange, which is not good. So that's the reason why looking into locally produced alternative ingredient is one of way. It's not the only way, but one of the way that I would say that aquafeed, sustainable aquafeed can be achieved. Another thing that we need to look into how to achieve a sustainable aquafeed is by investing into research and development. Unlike a developed country like Australia and some European countries and Canada and America, the capital, the fund is there to develop. But in developing country, we have to acknowledge that limitation in funding and capital will always hinder the whole process of R&D. Therefore, by looking into low-tech but high-touch, technology could be something that we should look into to help local operators, aquaculture, and even livestock producers to produce sustainable feed. And the technology must be practical and feasible. So some of the technology transfer, for instance, in developed country, they have developed a very sophisticated technology, but those technologies sometimes unable to be expedited in developing country due to a number of reasons. So whatever the technology that we need to look into must be practical and feasible for developing country. And also the abundance of resource should be taken as advantage for tropical countries such as Indonesia and Malaysia, because there are a lot more resource that we can use in order to complement the process of making low quality ingredient into higher quality or more absorbable ingredient by the animal. Like for instance, as I mentioned before, like papain and bromelain are two exogenous enzymes that actually work to help digestions, and Indonesia and Malaysia and most of Southeast Asia has abundance of those plants to process and to extract for animal feed in general. In fact, in poultry, they also feed the fish, they feed the chicken using the pineapple skin in order to improve the digestion and help the absorptions of the nutrients. So with that, thank you very much. I hope my presentations meet the theme.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nurkhalida. Yes, your presentation meets the scope of our conference today, because we talk about what the strategy of achieving sustainable development goals. So now all the keynote speakers already present to us, start from the animal disease, then from livestock aspect, and then you come with the aquatic components in your talk. So it's complete the overall target of our first panel session. And thank you very much. And even you already mentioned as well the thing that related with economics, which also will be the main concern actually from all the activities that people are doing in the world today regarding agriculture. So thank you very much, Dr. Nurkhalida. Then I would like to tell you, Prof. Graham and Dr. Nurkhalida, Prof. Yoni has to say apologize because he has another important meeting in IPB University in 11:30 today. So he sent you regards about all you, and also to all the participants. But if the participant have a question to address to him, he is very happy to receive it. Either you write it or you can email him later on. If you write it in the chat room, we will collect and send it to Prof. Yoni. And for the participant who's still with us in this virtual virtual hall or virtual platform. We now we are entering the discussion session, and we will give you time for discussion to ask a question, and the keynote speaker will answer your question. And please mention you could start either by click the raise hand button in the chat room, and then I will call each of you to speak through your microphone, and or you can write your question in the chat room. Then I will read it, and the speaker will answer your question. All right. They already. Yes, Graham, you want to say something?
There's a question. There's a question in the chat room from Muhammad Hanafia.
All right. Yeah.
For me. So while Dr. Khalida gets her breath back, I can answer this question, because I'm sure she'll have more questions than I will get, I'm sure. So he is asking. So Muhammad is asking whether how we can measure ethical things in animals. He's asking two questions: how we can measure the ethical aspects of welfare of animals, and this is actually quite simple. We actually have behavioural tests now, as well as blood tests that allow us to decide if the animals are stressed or not. It's a bit too, at the moment, a bit too complicated to do with a large number of animals. But if you have a small group, for example, you have 20 goats, then this can be done quite simply. The other question he's asking is whether it affects the product quality. And the answer is yes. So let me give you a really simple example, is that if you have an animal which is being killed for meat and the animal is stressed, the consequence of the stress is a reduction of the amount of glycogen in the muscle. And when you do this, the muscle becomes very difficult to eat. It becomes what we call tough, because the ultimate pH after killing is not going low enough. So, you know, there's a big drive now in industry to make sure that meat is a high quality product, as it should be, because we are killing animals for food. And if we can reduce the level of stress, then we get a higher quality product and therefore better food for us.
That's it, Graham. Thank you very much for your very clear answer to this question. And I would like to tell you as well, Professor Muhammad Hanafia, his expertise in parasite as well. So he might be interested to contact you, or maybe talking about the future collaboration as well, we hope. Yeah.
With pleasure.
Thank you, Graham. All right, any other question from the participants, please? All right, while we are waiting for other question, I would like to, for the asking the short question, perhaps both to Professor Graham and to Dr. Khalida. Firstly, I would like to have your talk on the aspect of when we are talking about production and health, both in livestock and also in aquatic animal. When we talk with the industries or the farmers, they will think the efficient and effective method. So that means they will use the approach that gives them a fast result and cheap. How you explain this when we are thinking the future approach that we have to deal with the environment, and then the expectation from the human health aspect, and of course the animal need to produce, because we the population grow very fast now. Yeah. Maybe first, maybe Dr. Khalida first. Prof. Graham, sorry, please.
I can go first if you like.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Khalida is still muted. In fact, this is an important question for both of us. And you may remember that Dr. Khalida talked about her farmers and about the fact that they need low-tech, high-touch solutions, not really complicated things. And in fact, it's the same for my farmers, right? So although we often think about farmers in countries like Australia being very high-tech, many of our farmers are not. They have big farms and only 1 or 2 people to help them with the farm. So let's take my university farm, for example. We have 3,000 sheep and only 2 people. So we can't do intensive measurements, intensive monitoring and so forth. So we have the same needs in that sense, okay? And around the world, most livestock production systems are like this. They're not all high-tech dairies like the USA. So we actually then need, as scientists, to develop approaches to help farmers to do these things in a simple way. And with modern technology, we're now suddenly in a situation where we can start to make a difference. We can have modern gene technology, but modern sensors and things which can help us at a very low cost to provide really good information for the farmer. And I'll just focus on the ethical side here. If the animal is stressed, if the animal is unhealthy, if it is stressed because it's hot or it's stressed because of its environment, and it's unhealthy, its production is lower, okay? So it will produce less meat, less milk, less wool if it's a wool or fiber animal, reproduce less. So these are all bad things for the farmer. So we need to show the farmer that improving the environment and improving the welfare of the animals makes them more productive and therefore gives them more money. And I think this is an important thing for us to do. We can convince them this is true, but then we also must provide them with the tools to make this happen.
Yep. Thank you very much, Graham. Dr. Nurkhalida, maybe you have talk as well on this question, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Reza. I couldn't agree more with Program. Program, you're absolutely right. Working with the farmers, we need to provide them with information. We need, as researcher, we need to tell them with the information and things that my experience with the farmer always give them in sense of money. If we talk about science and facts, it wouldn't help that much. But if we talk to them what the profit and gain for them, it is more, I would say, impactful in a way. Also, a regulation at international level also very important. For instance, like in aquaculture, currently European has this so-called seafood stewardships. So meaning that any product that been exported to Europe country or international level with that certification has better value. And the important thing that to get that certification is what they call traceability, meaning that the whole process, the whole chain of growing the aquatic product must be able to be traced, including to the point of how the seed been produced. So the moment that the farmers realize about this importance, about what benefit they can get from this certification, and in a way that they can sell at higher price, especially from a developing country exporting the product to the European country that giving more profit to them, they tend to follow the regulation, especially when it comes to the health of the stock. If for fish, it's very clear. Some of the fish, sometimes they like to stock in higher density like catfish. Some of the fish, they need space. All of this information, the farmers, they have the information firsthand, but with other ethics and with other information, yes, I get the researcher should provide the information to the farmers and put it in context of $sign. For me, that's how it works.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalida. So, Graham, you want to add, please?
Are there other people asking questions? If not, I can comment again.
Yeah, not yet, Graham, not yet. Yeah, please add your comment.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to compliment Dr. Khalida on her presentation. I think that what she is working in is one of the most important areas of food production for humanity. This idea of changing the way we produce food is really critical. Using food waste, using insects to modify substrates, I think is absolutely critical. And we don't do enough of this right now. Right, we do not so much in your countries, but certainly in mine, for example, is we grow high quality human food and we give it to animals and then we eat the animal. This is crazy. Okay, so I love what she's doing. So I'm very pleased about that. The other thing, and maybe this is something you and your society could consider for a future conference, is this communication between scientists and farmers. So what we have, because we're all teachers in universities, we think, you know, they're like students. They stand in front of us and we fill a gap in their knowledge and then they go and change, but they don't, okay? So what we need is to have a process, a modern process, where we extend the science to the community and then we have a process to improve adoption and uptake so they can change their practice. And this is not an easy thing to do. And we have made serious mistakes in this area for a long time now with animal farmers in particular, is that we expect that we give them information and they will change, and they just do not, okay? So what we have to do is actually, before we begin a lot of our research processes, is ask them what they want. They don't always know what they want, and they may say things that are silly, but they'll usually say, oh, I want more money, I want to have a nice house, I want better education for my children. And you say, right, well, we can help you there if you are more productive, okay? And then you say, now we make you more productive this way. So you come in from their perspective, and then you provide. They then feel as though they own the research, and then you can get them slowly to change their practices. So it's an adult education process, and I think that's something that we as a scientific community should be taking more serious. And I worry about this a lot.
Thank you, Prof. Graham, for your additional comment. It's both of you complete to each other. I'm still not seeing someone raise hand yet, but maybe while waiting for them, I would like to continue with our discussion here. Dr. Khalida already mentioned about regulation for the animal product to go from one country to another country. They will raise another issue with different capacity and different technology between the two different countries. In developing countries, they are not ready with the new technology or the approach that under this issue with environmental issue, animal welfare. Well, the developed countries request the product need to be traceable and also use concern with animal welfare. How we can deal with this, do you think, in the future? So both different countries like this, they can fill each other requirements. Maybe Graham first, and then Dr. Khalida. Please.
Oh, this must be a hard question, so he picks me first. Okay, so this is clearly a serious issue, right? And also in developing countries, we have the issue where many of the farmers are subsistence farmers, so they're producing mostly just to keep their family alive. And so you have an issue there where you have to bring them out of subsistence and to go above that so they can sell product to the outside world. And then, of course, outside that, you go to export. So, I wouldn't confess to be an expert in those problems, and I'd rather have Khalida comment on that. So our situation is in some ways, though, very similar. We are a food exporting country. So Australia produces food for 60 million people every year, and we are only 20 million people. So we are feeding 40 million other people around the world. And this means that all of our processes are aimed at satisfying the regulations of the importing countries. And we often use Japan, Europe, USA as our sort of guidelines for this. Right now, the Chinese think we're doing a bad job, but international politics is complicated. So, but this is certainly the important thing for us is that we have these standards. And if we have export standards, worldwide export standards, then of course that means our internal standards are basically the same. They need to be the same. And this is good for the human population, the people of Australia. When they buy food in the supermarket, they are confident that it is chemical-free, antibiotic-free, and safe for their children. So I see the problems are the same, and you know, in many ways, regulations are done by government. Okay, government must have a decision about what it is that is the correct standard, and then have a process to implement the standard and to help the farmers to achieve the standard. This is where governments should be involved. They shouldn't be involved in production systems. So I think this is a really important issue here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Martin, for his comprehensive thinking, of course, for the future, for the fairness between the requirement from developed countries and the fulfill how the developing countries can fulfill it. And Dr. Khalida, do you want to add some comment as well on this issue, maybe?
Yeah. About the regulation meeting certain standard or not, it's somehow very complicated, as Prof. Graham been saying. For instance, I can put the perspective as in developing country in Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia, for instance. For the operators in our countries, money is always the thing. Whether we fulfill certain standard or not is not their concern. So in order to make them fulfill certain standard, it has to be farmers who can see things in, I would say, broader horizon, that if they want to produce or they want to market the product in international level. Some of the farmers or operator, they just okay to market the product within the country, where our country, I'm not sure about Indonesia, in Malaysia, the people doesn't concern about the quality of the food, where the food actually came from, how the food been raised or how they've been cultured, what the process it get involved. As long as the food is cheap and people be able to buy it, you know, so people are happy to get the food. I could say that for very, very typical situation like catfish, for instance, African catfish. People know that African catfish eat almost everything, and some of the operators being very unethical, feeding the fish with animal carcasses directly, and not just it's pollute the water, it bring disease to the fish and everything, but that's not the concern for the consumer because they don't see it. And as long as the market price of it is still affordable and the fish is still fish, people will still buy it. However, the regulation should come from the authority, and the authority somehow also they are tossing between, you know, supporting the local operator and also meeting the international standard, because the international standard is very high. For instance, like to get through European market, for instance, they have to fulfill certain quality testing. The presence of antibiotic residues and things like that. It happens so many times, even in Thailand, I think last 5 years, they experienced where once they export the shrimp over there and European has returned it because of the traces of the antibiotic. And what are they gonna do with that? They don't want to lose, trust me. Businessmen, they would never want to lose it. So what they will do, they received it and they sold it to the local people at a cheaper price. It's very, very common. If you put an offer about food, people will buy it without question. So it is tossing between, you see, to serve the poor or to feed the rich. And that is always the gray area where people play a bit on the regulation. Like, you know, people will always find way to move around it. But having a certification and educating the community is very important. The universities, the institutions should play roles. And again, as in order to communicate, to educate what we call the adult, the operator, like Prof. Graham been saying, we cannot behave like we are the institution and the operators are students. We have to bring to the level, that same level, that we need to share information with them, because that's rather make them feel that the technology also belongs to them and they want to adopt the technology. So from my experience, because I'm working with community engagement very closely and it has been part of my research component, making them part of the whole journey, make them see what we see, make them feel what we feel, and make them be part of the community. So that the process is slow, but it will get there at some point. But it is hard process. It never been easy. So that's my comment on that.
Thank you, Dr. Khalida. That's very clear. So in conclusion, actually, how we are from scientists transforming the scientific issue to be practically adopted by the community, the farmer, yeah, especially. Thank you. Graham, you were raised hand. You want to add?
No, I was just applauding
Okay.
Dr. Khalida.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I think I have a question for both of you.
Please,
Indonesia,
Graham, yeah, in the chat room, yeah.
Indonesia and Malaysia, are the children in school being educated about food safety, food quality, and these issues that we are talking about now? Do they go home and say, "Mum, I don't want you to buy the cheap fish"?
Yeah. Especially we are concerning with halal food, so they already teach since early school age. Yeah. So that's also touching with healthy food as well when we are talking halal food and healthy food together. Yes.
So do they get taught about antibiotic residues and industrial pollution?
Not that early. In Indonesia, not that early. Yeah, please, Dr. Khalida, you want to comment, please?
Well, I can say from my experience, I wouldn't say that it has been done in like the whole country, but as part of the community engagement that we've been doing at University of Science Malaysia, this is part of the educational process that we go to school, we go to the community, that we bring the information to the community, even a small community or big community. So the participations come from diverse group of society. It's from the authority as well as it's to the local consumers, and also for the teachers. We bring the information to the teachers, and we allow the kids to come to the institute to have a look how the fish being cultured, what is so-called like what we call ethical food. Because when in Muslim country we talk about halal, people could understand it. But in Malaysia, we are also very diverse society. So halal is not enough to tell about it. But halal, it come in package. It's ethical food, it's good food. So when we explain in that context, so people start to associate halal food with ethical food, because the way we grow them. And then the problem is just the problem here is like antibiotic residues, and like how we culture the aquatic animal. For instance, how we have to destroy some of the mangroves area. And that's also included in ethicals, because you are destructing ecology in order to produce food. So I have to acknowledge that the action is not good. But for some people, they have to. So meaning that in a way that how to balance these two, because the one that operated those farm is not super rich or high income people. So in Malaysia, we have our fisheries department that always monitor the condition, but it's, as I said again, it's not all the time things are going all the way that we want. It always have farmers that go around the gray area to get things through with it. But yes, we've been doing the educational program to educate the community at small scale, but we are increasing the program and activity.
That's good.
Thank you, Dr. Khalida.
Reza, there's a couple of questions in the chat.
Yeah, please, Graham, they're already in the chat room. The first one from Dr. Budianto to Prof. Graham. How can ethical management for livestock and health production easily be applied to a farm? Please, Graham. Maybe then Dr. Khalida can also add.
Okay, so okay, so this is still part of the problem. It's about educating farmers or training farmers to understand that this is important. And we sort of discussed this, and that we have to show them that it's important for profitability, but then also provide them with the ways to measure issues of animal ethics. So I didn't discuss a specific one today, but I talked about fly strike, myiasis. And we have a technique in sheep industry in Australia called mulesing, where we cut the skin around the tail of the sheep when the animal is young, with no anesthetic, okay? I don't know about you, but I would not like this to happen to me. So we do this to prevent the flies from laying the eggs there. Now there is a very strong movement against that. So basically the industry is changing. We have not used this technique on the university farm for 10 years. And it's not caused a problem. We just have a slightly different management style. So we need to.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So we need to train farmers about. We need to demonstrate to them how this actually improves the situation. So, and these basically, maintaining good health and maintaining good welfare are not expensive. They're just a different way of thinking about managing animals.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Graham. Dr. Khalida, you want to add regarding this ethical question about ethical management, maybe in aquatic production as well?
In aquatic, I think the relationship is very straightforward. If the fish or the aquatic animal hasn't been cultured in proper density, mass mortality, you will experience mass mortality, as simple as that. Probably terrestrial animal, poultry, that you can see a bit more, room for the animal to survive. But for aquatic animal, the moment you violate the stock density kind of things, and you pack them too much, once they stress, they die. So the operator can totally lost it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Khalida. And there is another question to both of you, Prof. Graham and Dr. Khalida, from Professor Muslim. What do you think for fetal programming for selection good genotype? Maybe Prof. Graham,
I think this one is mostly for me. I don't know. Maybe Dr. Khalida can tell us if this is a problem in fish or not, but I don't know. So the answer is probably no. Fetal programming, which is where the embryo, the egg, and then the embryo and then the fetus inside the mother are affected by the environment of the mother. This has become a really big topic, and I think one of the hottest topics in reproductive biology in livestock. Of course, it's an area that began with humans before livestock, which is the wrong way around. It's normally the other way. So there are many, many aspects of fetal programming that affect livestock and the future productivity of livestock. But this is not genetic. This is epigenetic. And so this is where the genes of the fetus, which are already fixed, are being changed in the way they're expressed by maternal environmental factors that then are carried through the young animal into its adulthood and changes productivity. So there's no real genetic pathway here unless we begin to understand the genes that control the epigenetics. So it becomes very complicated. But it's very early days in this field, but it's still extremely hot topic.
Thank you, Graham. Yeah, Professor Muslim, also expert in veterinary reproduction. So that's why I would like to have you talk on that. Dr. Khalida, do you have a term like this in aquatic animal fetal programming?
No, apparently we don't have such terms in fetal programming, but they do have what we call selective breeding program, meaning that we choose the best traits from the fish, that whether they grow fast and things like that. From there, then they've been selected, and then they've been made, and getting raw and milled and get to reproduce. So yeah, but I guess this is a very expensive program in order to apply it for aquaculture, because this industry need to remain cheap so that everybody can experience, food and protein from fish. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very clear answer and bring us open our mind on how we will face the future in our sectors, both livestock, animal health, and also in aquatic animal. Yeah, there are no more questions so far, and I think we.
Dr. Reza, excuse me.
Yeah. Please,
Yeah.
Dr. Azrina. Okay, please.
Thank you
There's
very much.
lady will ask a question. Please, Dr. Azrina.
Thank you, Dr. Reza. Yeah, I have a question for Dr. Khalida, which is, it was a great presentation and great explanation. It's opened my mind regarding about aquaculture or aquafeed. So as you said before, that you explained about fish oil and fish meal, that both have high nutritional value, which is not only important for agriculture, but also aquaculture, right? And you also added that you said nothing that can be substituted for these two, fish oil and fish meal. So my question, because we need to think about the sustainability of this component, if we can choose one of them, which one is better to use only? So which one that can replace one of them? So we not only use both. So that's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Azrina. Please, Dr. Khalida.
Thank you, Dr. Azrina. The way I see things is a bit different. I would say that the reason why I said that we cannot substitute that ingredient 100%, but we can always have some portion being, sort of like complement. If we want to exclude certain, or if we want to reduce some portion of fish meal, we can try to find substitute to complement the amount of nutrient that we want to replace. For example, that I know that perhaps what you want to say is, if we just use fish meal but opt out fish oil, use fish oil, opt out fish meal. But these two things has different serve different purposes. Fish meal more into protein, amino acids. Yes, fish meal has also fatty acid in it, but not that much. Fish oil is solid oil. Yes, indeed, we do replace it with palm oil, other plant oil. But as I said, the component isn't really match the missing nutrient. So that's why that what we are focusing now is into insects that be able to bioconvert low quality plant that has omega-3 into the insect itself, so that we can have high protein and trace amount of omega-3. Like seaweed, for instance, seaweed hasn't been looked into as animal feed, and the potential of seaweed can be used as aqua feed is, I would say, high as well, although fish can't really utilize seaweed directly due to the fiber content in the seaweed, but insect can transform that. So that's what we're looking into the insect as a bioconversion. So if black soldier fly larvae in natural condition, they don't have omega-3, but fatty acid is reflected from the food. So if we can make that conversion, so at least, if we can find way to reduce the usage of fish meal and fish oil, I think that would be something, what we're looking for. So if I hope that I answer your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Khalida. Okay, Dr. Azrina, is that clear?
Yeah, that's clear. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalida.
Welcome. Thank you very much for Professor Graham and also Dr. Khalida. We are now entering, there is a student who would like to ask, Karina Fani, do you want to ask a question or?
Dr. Reza?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Professor Graham?
Dr. Rosalia, please. This will be last question in this session.
All right.
Please, Dr. Rosa.
Thank you. So I have a question for Professor Graham. I remember about an issue of transporting live animals overseas, so from one country to another country. So I've heard about Australia for some time transporting live cows, live cattle to Indonesia, but I'm not sure if it's still happening nowadays. But if I'm thinking about this problem, so I'm concerning about ethical issue during the process. So is there any solution to reduce or even eliminate the stress that the cattle can feel during the transportation duration? Thank you.
Please, Graham.
Thank you, Rosa. It's a very, very important question. I didn't talk about it today in my presentation, but it's a topic that is at the top of the mind of many Australian people, farmers and non-farmers. So the situation is that the farmers here can look after their animals very, very carefully, and the animals are very happy, they're very healthy. And then we take them to a ship, and they can be sheep or cattle, but in Indonesia in particular, it's been cattle. We take them to a ship, and then the farmers basically hand the animals to the shipping company. And then the farmers can do nothing after that. So they sit back and they watch and hope for the best. When the shipping company does a good job, it transports the animals very safely to the destination country. Very few die. And in fact, the rates of death on ships are less than the rates of deaths on farms in Australia. They have very good veterinary help. They have very good crews, very good processes. Then two things go wrong. One is that we can have a bad shipping company who does the wrong thing. And this then reflects on the farmers in Australia who suddenly become very embarrassed about this. And they can do this, for example, by taking animals into a very hot climate where it's 50 degrees and the animals get hot and they'll have heat stress. And they clearly should not be sailing with animals on a ship in these conditions. They should go at a different time of the year. The second thing that happens is that when they arrive, then the animals are taken off the ship, and now the shipping company loses control, and it becomes animals controlled by the local people. And so Australia has put a lot of effort into helping the animal industry in Australia has put a lot of effort into training people in Indonesia, for example, to do the right thing with the animals when they arrive, to make sure they go to a good abattoir, that they are treated well. But these things can go wrong. And when they go wrong, once again, we have a problem in Australia. And so this is a complex industry, right? And personally, I would like to see live shipping stop. For me, I just don't understand it. Okay, I just think it's such a risky process that I don't see the value. I think we should, if it's for meat for Indonesia, we should kill the animals in Australia using halal practice. And then we send the meat to Indonesia. There's no problem that way, okay? In addition, when we send you a whole cow, only half of the animal is valuable. Half of it is waste, which you might want to feed, Dr. Khalida, to your fish, but, you know, there is a possibility there. So the shipping cost is double, and then you have a problem at your end as well. So I just think that this is an industry with only a short-term future.
Thank you, Prof.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Professor Martin. All right, thank you very much for all participants for a very good question and also a very clear answer from all of our keynote speakers in this session. Unfortunately, we are now getting to the final, what we call, we already to 12 o'clock in Indonesia, in Banda Aceh. So it's the time for us to close this session. And before that, maybe both Prof. Graham and Dr. Khalida, do you have anything as a remarks in this session before I close the session, please?
I have nothing else to say. Reza, thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure to be here and a great pleasure to meet you, Dr. Khalida.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Reza. Thanks, Prof. Graham. Same here. I learned a lot from your talk, and it's such a pleasure to be in this conference again this year. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for both of you and also for the great participant that joined us in this first session. Then I would like to say in a short word that during this session we already discussed a comprehensive issue, I think, both from animal health issue, and then livestock issue, and also aquatic animal issue and production as well. And then, of course, there are many challenges in the field that we need to solve to find a solution. And of course, as a scientist, we are need to do something to help the community, both farmers and also the consumers, to fill the requirement, both in the small community and also in the large community in the world, of course. And we also like to give a message for all of us that from this first session, of course, open our opportunity to build another bigger consortium of research from Australia, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Of course, we can start program and Dr. Khalida into in a formal collaboration later on. And of course, we pray, we hope that this pandemic situation will over soon, and then we can visit each other again to increase our collaboration and strengthen our collaboration in research and also teaching as well. We also miss a program lecture on scientific communication, scientific communication. So sometime in the future we can do it again. Also, we would like to invite Dr. Khalida as well, and Prof. Yoni as well, in Indonesia or in Australia or in Malaysia next time. Thank you very much for all of you. We hope to see you as well again. If you have time to join our next panel session, starting at 15 p.m. in Indonesia, in our place. We will have 3 keynote speakers. They are Professor Dr. David Modri, expertise in parasitic disease. He will talk on emerging disease in wildlife, trend principles, and selected examples. And then Professor Dr. Musa Yafuz from Istabata Applied Science University, Turkey. He will talk on global food security post-pandemic COVID-19, prospect and strategy for sustainable livestock production, and will be closed by Professor Dr. Medved Jean-Michel Schad from Zurich University. His talk on wildlife, new emerging disease, and One Health. So see you all again after this break for a bit longer, because we try to match with the time in Western time this afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Program and Dr. Khalida. I will take a picture. Please wait for a moment. The committee will take our picture virtually from this Zoom platform. Please, Dr. Awal and team. Yeah, please, Pak Rector, maybe you still join us so we can take a picture together. Sebentar mungkin Pak Rektor juga akan bergabung. Okay, please, Dr. Awal, let us know how we have to be, how we should use our style. Raise our hand or or just cheering, smile.
Everyone, all participants, please open the camera video for the documentation for this webinar today.
Yeah,
there's a 4 slide. This is the first slide.
Thank you, Pak Dr. Munawaro, for your joining us. Thank you.
Second page, 1, 2, 3. Third page, 1, 2, 3. The last page. very much for
Okay.
participant.
Thank you
I've
very much,
already
Dr.
taken the documentation
Awal.
for this webinar.
We will share with all of you. Thank
Please,
you.
one more, sir. Please
One more. So we repeat.
don't
Okay.
forget to get the link for approved attendance, and we will be provided free certificate for, to your email in the next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Awal. Please check in chat room. They already share the attendance list that you can fill in online. So everything online now. All right, Dr. Wahdi, thank you for joining us. Dr. Wahdi is a wildlife expert in our place. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, for keynote speakers and participants, either you could keep your Zoom online live, or you can leave it with video. No video, stop video, and then we will back on 15 p.m. or 3 p.m. in Banda Aceh for the next panel session. We expect that all of you still could join us in the next panel session. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Keep healthy, keep social distancing. Thank you. Oh yeah, please wait. There's the committee just still have one more thing. As an appreciation, we would like to hand in a virtual certificate for all the keynote speakers. Okay, please, Dr. Awal, show us the first certificate. Okay, they are preparing. Please be patient. Yeah. Okay, the first certificate goes to, we will give to Professor Dr. Graham Martin for his participation and valuable contribution as keynote speaker. Please, Graham, hope you would like to receive this virtually. Thank you very much. And then to Dr. Khalida, please, Dr. Awal. Oh, okay. The second for Professor Dr. Sri Hadi Agung Priyono, MSc. Thank you very much for his participation and valuable contribution as well for as keynote speaker. Thank you very much, Prof. Yoni. Okay, the next one. Yeah, for our last keynote speakers in this session, Dr. Nur Khalida Abdul Hamid. Thank you very much, Dr. Nur Khalida. Normally, when we are doing this in Banda Aceh, in addition to the certificate, you also receive Rencong Aceh.
Rencong Aceh. Oh, yeah. Yes.
But yeah, we hope when we meet next time, we can hand in it to all of you. Yeah, well. Okay, take another repeat for picture taking. Okay, please, Dr. Awal. Okay. Please be patient.
It's okay.
I'm sure in Australia already late, yeah, program.
Open the camera for the whole.
Yeah, please open your video. Make your video on so the committee can take the picture. And show us your pretty smile.
Okay, sir.
Okay, finish, complete. Thank you very much for very great work from the committee and the chairman as well. And all right, now you can take a rest for a while and see you again this next few hours. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum.
See you soon.
See you soon, Prof. Ram. Thank you.
Please keep the link. We will be continuing with the meeting at 3 o'clock p.m. or GMT +7. We will have the same Zoom link and everybody stay healthy.